Hello friends, welcome to the show. Hope you're all having a lovely week. At first, I was going to do a Game Awards episode, but after a few years of doing that, I realized I don't really care to give that advertisement any more advertising, so we're going to skip it. I don't think there's that much to say about it. Every year, Jeff Keighley, one of the most intolerable, smug, useless personalities in the industry, helps the rest of the multi-billion-dollar games industry advertise themselves to us, the gaming proletariat. It's a fuckfest of trailers, teasers, advertisements, awkward famous people who don't know what any of the words coming out of their mouths mean and who make all of us uncomfortable every second they're on stage. It's not an awards show, we all know it, it's a 3-hour commercial, and I have no time for it, and I don't think that you should either. Depressingly enough, apparently the 118 million people who streamed it live did though, so don't expect it to go away anytime soon. There is some actual interesting stuff to get into this week though, so let's get deep inside right away. Just time for a quick recap of the week, which was largely dominated by a game, or maybe non-game would be a better term, that many of you have likely heard of already, The Day Before. At one point, Steam's most wish-listed game, its saga has now come to an inglorious, bloody end that saw it, rather unsurprisingly I might add, ripping everyone off right after it promised it wasn't gonna rip everyone off. Classic games industry, you guys are such scamps. Originally pitched as a survival MMO that garnered lots of attention with its initial 2021 announcement trailer, people quickly realized something was just a little bit off. Games that aren't going to be real, I guess, aren't typically plagued by this many scandals, unpaid volunteer accusations, months of silence, and disputes with a calendar app. Yeah, guys, the vibes were always a bit off on this one for the jump, and our suspicions were confirmed when it finally released this week to abominable reviews, to which the studio responded by immediately closing forever. If you paid for this, I hope you can get a refund. This is just a classic tale of industry scamming that just keeps repeating, doesn't seem to go away. I just sincerely hope that not too many of you guys got caught up in it. Moving on, it seems the tale of zombie E3 just won't go away. I've lost count of the amount of videos I've done about E3 being dead over the years, and I was pretty sure the last one I did a few months ago was gonna be it. The last statements from the ESA didn't seem to leave any room for interpretation, but apparently they did, because now yet another statement has come out, this time on Twitter, reading simply, "After more than 2 decades of E3, each one bigger than the last, the time has come to say goodbye. Thanks for the memories, good game, well played, my fellow gamers." Good God. The best response was from some dude who posted this GIF with the caption, "Jeff Keighley reading this, wondering how many 30-second speeches, boring celebrities, and game ads he can pack into the Game Awards 2024. Yeah, I'd say that just about covers it. Next up, we do have some sad news to impart: the closure of a beloved studio, Free Radical. First rumored back in November and now official. They hadn't dropped enough bangers, I guess, in recent years for anyone to really care, and I think that sucks. I think the blame for this one can be laid squarely at the foot of Embracer Group, though, the enormous corpo grotesquerie that acquired them along with several other smaller studios earlier this year. Originally founded by some of the ex-Rare devs responsible for insane classics like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark back in '99, they only really popped back up on everyone's radar when they dropped Timesplitters. Initially a PS2 launch title, Timesplitters was good, but it wasn't until Timesplitters 2 in 2002 and the sequel in '05 that people really began to notice just how fucking good it was. If you're on the younger side, you might not really remember this one because it never came to PC or escaped the confines of the GameCube, Xbox, PS2 generation. But for those of us who only had those consoles in our living rooms at the time, Timesplitters was a game changer. It was one of the only games that you could not only do death matches in, but also co-op, and me and my friends played the fucking shit out of it. Remember, this was the time when the best you could probably get if you wanted a multiplayer experience and didn't want to play Halo was rigging up a bunch of PCs and running LAN games. So any couch co-op, single TV game, highly coveted, and Timesplitters 2 not only let you do that, but as a bonus, it happened to be fucking awesome. Rest in peace, Free Radical, you guys were one of the good ones. As their old QA manager said on LinkedIn after the closure announcement, Free Radical joins an ever-growing list of casualties in a broken industry where entire studios are treated as nothing but replaceable cogs in a soulless machine fixated on nothing but share prices. Yeah, amen, G. Fucking amen.
I've been saying it. I've been saying it for 10 damn years. Ain't I been saying it, Miguel? Huh? I've been saying it.
Lastly, as sort of a jump scare before we get into the main story, Disney has recently come out reacting to claims that the KOTOR remaster is still up in the air, saying, well, there's still a lot of demand for a Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. No. No, Disney, there is not. Stop trying to scare everybody. No one wants that. No one believes you. Cut it out. Isn't there a Star Wars movie or an MCU show around you can ruin? Get out of here. Scram. Finally tonight, for our main story, I figured, it's been about 3 months or so how about we check in on our old pal Starfield, Bethesda's prince that was promised. Skyrim in space, the new forever RPG, Game of the Year, Bethesda's big comeback where they would once again ascend to their rightful place atop the genre as kingmaker yet again. How's that going? Not great, as it turns out, not great. Some people, myself among them, found Starfield to be an indescribably catastrophic disappointment. Others felt differently, but were wrong. And that makes me kind of sad, actually. Admittedly, it's probably largely my fault because I really wanted to like it, and well, look around. So, what's been going on in the months since Bethesda bestowed upon us its latest overhyped, underdeveloped, rather sad excuse for a AAA game? To put things mildly, nothing good. A quick scan of Starfield-related headlines from even the typically sycophantic legacy media will make it quite clear Starfield did not exactly go over the way Bethesda was hoping it would. Or fuck, even the way most of us were hoping it would. I'm sure I wasn't alone in thinking how awesome it would be to get another Skyrim-level RPG from Bethesda. Needless to say, that didn't really pan out, so tonight we're going to examine the failure of Starfield to live up to expectations. Or maybe we're just going to talk some shit. I'm not sure. Either way, it'll be fun. If you played Skyrim, and I'm assuming you have if you had any interest whatsoever in a Bethesda RPG, you know that one of the best things about it, mods aside, was its open world. Open worlds are always trouble, in my opinion, as they're extremely easy to make, but almost impossible to make well. And since it's a large part of what makes Skyrim so good, and incidentally, Starfield so bad, I figured it'd be helpful to do a quick crash course in what makes open worlds actually good, because it's not so easy to pin down. See, the true genius of good open world design is the sense of transparent guidance, like there's some unseen hand kind of gently nudging you off the beaten path from one encounter or situation to the next. That's why good open world design is design that keeps you engaged, prevents you from feeling directionless and overwhelmed by too many nonsensical icons or objectives smeared all over your map with no rhyme or reason. You can't just have a bunch of markers that when you go to them, you do things. That doesn't feel like exploring, it feels like doing chores. For an open world to work, things need to happen to you. Skyrim is brilliant because of how the world leads you to side quests and alternate objectives. It feels like you're naturally just stumbling upon things happening, events in progress, or scenarios you can take part in. And once it's got your attention, it rewards it with interesting stuff to do and storylines with outcomes you can affect, which in turn encourages you to continue the gameplay behavior that led you to discover them in the first place. It's the way that events connect with one another and combine that make an open world actually feel like a world, like a place that exists where things are happening independent of your own actions. If each marker on your map is just an indication of a place you can go and do things, and those things aren't tethered or related to things that occur in other locations, you end up with a player that feels isolated, whose influence or agency in the so-called open world feels largely passive and irrelevant unless they're doing some main story mission. And in any game where the open world is supposed to be a major selling point, that's gonna cause a fucking problem if most of that content feels immaterial. That's how you end up with players feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, directionless, or even worse, Bethesda, bored. And bored players are players who aren't gonna be playing your game for very long. A well-designed open world game makes you want more things to do, not wish there were less. Good open world gameplay should be multiplicative and symbiotic, designed in a way where even the side missions and minor events or locations inform and relate back in a cyclical way to both themselves and the overarching story being told, leaving the player with a sense of immersion and a feeling like they're part of a larger, complex, interconnected world. Doesn't sound too much like Starfield, does it? So why am I telling you all this? Well, it's because to understand the full breadth of just how completely Starfield failed to deliver, you need to fully grasp what it was attempting. Starfield's implementation of an open world is desolate, impersonal, anemic, and barely deserving of the term, especially when compared to classics like Skyrim or even modern masterpieces like Breath of the Wild or Cyberpunk. It's amazing to me that the same people who were responsible for the intimate, handcrafted brilliance of Skyrim's world had anything to do with the sterile, barren locations seemingly randomly dropped across Starfield's procedurally generated planets. There's no personality to them, they have no interaction with anything else going on the larger maps in which they're located, and even worse, they're rarely anything beyond the same cookie-cutter space-based assets that are practically identical to the last 5 locations you just blasted your way through in a bored haze. Who gives a fuck how many planets there are if they're all empty or filled with soulless copy pasta? Especially when the way you travel between them is just a series of infuriating loading screens. You can't fuck up something as big as, the entire fucking setting and expect people to continue to ride for you, Bethesda. Already, pretty much the entire Starfield subreddit is a testament to this grisly reality. You needed people to want to play Starfield for years, not just a few weeks at best. Yet, just a few short months after release, where have all the game's defenders gone? Where are all the previously ravenous fans and Bethesda knobslobbers? Well, they're certainly not in the Steam reviews, I can tell you that, which have plummeted from an initially encouraging very positive to merely mixed. Womp womp. Next, let's check in with another group of people that are typically a great way to gauge the health of a game: modders. It's a rather well-known fact that even the best Bethesda games often have their soul rooted in mods, many of which are painstakingly crafted by dedicated and truly talented people who, for some reason I will never understand, have dedicated enormous amounts of their time, blood, sweat, and tears to fixing Bethesda's fuck-ups. God bless them. Skyrim alone is the most modded game in history, with well over 100,000 mods available for it. So, what about Starfield? Certainly Skyrim in space has an equal number of talented people furiously building stuff for it, right? Well, not exactly, unless you consider 6% of that to be an equal number. Of course, we are the fair show in America, so I must point out that Starfield is barely 4 months old, whereas Skyrim has been out for over 10 years, so Starfield certainly has some time to catch up. The question is, will it be able to maintain the momentum required to put up a competitive showing to Skyrim's mods, or even to keep the game alive? The answer? Probably not, especially if the legends behind the co-op Skyrim mod Skyrim Together are any indication. With over 1 million downloads and an audience big enough so that other people make mods for that mod, it's a pretty safe bet to say that the team behind it and their attitude towards Starfield are a good metric upon which to judge its popularity and potential in the mod scene. So, what did they have to say about Starfield? This game is fucking trash. Oh. One of the main coders working on the Starfield version of that co-op mod, Rob Brysink, went on to call the game bland and boring, lamenting that one of the biggest draws of Bethesda games that we discussed earlier, the exploration of a lively handcrafted world, is completely gone. He summed up his final thoughts by announcing that he would not be continuing work on the Starfield mod because, quote, he would not put his heart and soul into a mod for a game as mediocre as this. Starfield is ass. Uh-oh. Yeah, that is not a good sign for a game many were relying on modders like this guy to drag from the doldrums of mediocrity into anything resembling, I don't know, good, tolerable. If you've got even your most dedicated fans bailing on your game this early and saying that after just a few months, especially a Bethesda game, that's pretty much akin to a death sentence. How bad must your game be when it's not even that modders can't save it, it's that they don't want to? I don't know how you come back from that. Of course, Bethesda, being a typical AAA developer, in their infinite hubris, think that they do. And we already know the typical AAA prescription for an underdeveloped, lackluster release, don't we guys? Yep, that's right, patches. Lots and lots of patches. Maybe even a roadmap. Be still my heart indeed. Because what everyone wants after paying full price for a AAA game, of course, is to wait while the company that now has your money to fix it. Maybe. Eventually. After all, they already have your money, so customers are just sort of left to hope Bethesda honors their commitment, and sadly, you don't really have to look far in the games industry to see how well that usually works out. Bethesda, it's time for the tough talk. The cities are barren, tedious, confusing places that make everyone want to escape them, not spend time there, a feat made practically impossible because there are no fucking maps. Your space exploration is a bunch of loading screens interspersed with combat that would have been sloppy and uninspiring 2 decades ago, and space travel is anything but. Base building is a footnote at best. Characters are more wooden than Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, and the writing and storytelling feel more at home in a freshman creative writing class than a AAA video game that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. Do you really think you're gonna patch your way out of that? I mean, honestly, they probably don't, and they probably don't care. All they really care about is that we believe them when they say that. Now, I admit, I and many others would definitely like to see them try, because we don't obviously like when customers get ripped off, but also because we like to see corpos squirm. Practically speaking, though, I just don't think a bunch of last-minute, oh shit, we fucked this the fuck up patches are gonna get it done. If this was a temporary backlash, or maybe just a knee-jerk reaction to a few hopes getting dashed, well, that'd be one thing. But it's been months now, and I think at this point it's safe to say that the dust has settled and the verdict is in on Starfield. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, what about Cyberpunk? They fixed that game and it turned out awesome. Yeah, it did. But you're forgetting one thing. Cyberpunk could be fixed because it was broken. Starfield isn't broken, it's working as intended. It was actually designed to be this mediocre. Yes, folks, sadly I think it might be time to pack it in for the Elder Scrolls 6. If this is the best that Bethesda's got, it's not looking good. I initially said it in my Starfield review, and I'll repeat it now that unsurprisingly, time has proven the people's champ right once again. Bethesda is actually bad. They are not good. At best, they're mid. They're a mid dev that got lucky once or twice. It's their good games that are the anomalies, not the bad ones. Okay, that's our show. Thanks so much for chilling with us tonight. Spend this little bit of your free time with us. We love you today. We love you all the way. Not actually sure if we'll have another episode out before the holidays. It largely depends on the vile, rapacious, and soul-scouring games industry and what unique brand of evil they have in store for us as the year draws to a close. So, if we don't talk again before then, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and we'll see you next year when we will definitely, without a doubt, talk a whole bunch more shit.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. Back down. What? Yup, woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke